Depression. It can be a killer for some. So this is going to be a different type of video compared to my other ones, a little bit more serious, as I wanted to talk about depression. I've been in a depressed state before. I've had situational depression before, and that's mainly what I want to talk about, along with people who suffer from seasonal depression. As far as seasonal depression goes, I don't really have a whole lot to say on the subject. I've never really suffered from it. I know people who have. I know somebody who did go see a doctor about being depressed in the wintertime, and the first thing the doctor suggested was taking some vitamin D. I don't really know the whole reasoning behind it. It has something to do with the sunlight or lack thereof during the wintertime. If somebody feels like they're depressed during the wintertime and they don't know what to do, but it's not bad enough that they want to go see a doctor about it, I'd suggest to them to take some vitamin D. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that. As for situational depression, it's something that's a little harder for me to talk about because it hits a little closer to home. I've suffered from it on 3 occasions that I can remember, or that I can think of, and at the end of the day, after I got over it, it just seemed like those things that I was so depressed about were just stupid, but they don't seem stupid at the time. And I feel really bad for people who go through those things, and especially for people who take their own lives because of it. I know that it's probably a major cause for a lot of suicides that happen, and it's really sad that that happens. But for those who are feeling like they are going through a situation that's really tough on them, and they don't know what to do, you just gotta plug on through it. You have to figure out what the problem is and figure out how to solve that problem. It's really tough for a lot of people. I know I had trouble with it, and even at that, I'm a firm believer in that you can't change how you feel until your feelings change. It sounds a little weird, but it's pretty hard to describe. But basically what that means is that you can know in your head that you have a problem that you don't need to have, but you can't change your feelings about it. For example, if somebody breaks up with you, you can know in your head that it's not really that big of a deal, but in your heart it feels like it's the worst thing that's ever happened to you, and you can't change that until your heart realizes what your head already knows. And that's pretty much how situational depression for me has ever gone. Not always due to a breakup or something like that, but basically my head knew what the problem was, and I knew that it would get better with time, but my heart just wouldn't let go. For those who have these problems, whether you're young or old, sometimes the best cure for situational depression is just talking about it. Letting someone know, someone who will listen and not interject, just letting it all out. It's hard to do. Some people need to go see a psychiatrist about it. Other people can just talk about it freely. But you have to talk about it, because otherwise you'll never get past it. You have to vent about it. You have to vent your anger, vent your sadness, vent your guilt, whatever the feelings may be. You have to let them out, and just know that things will get better. with other types of depression, there's chemical imbalances that cause depression and stuff like that, and that stuff you need to go see a doctor about. But when you know what your problem is and what's causing you to feel depressed, you have to talk about it, and you know that things will get better. As far as I'm concerned, people who commit suicide are very selfish people who only think of themselves and think their situation is the worst situation ever. And you have to realize that there are people out there with a lot worse problems than you. No matter how bad your problems are, there's always people out there with worse problems, and they pull through it. For example, I know that some of my stuff that I've gone through, I've had some pretty rough times in my life, but I know that my life is amazing compared to some people. And every time I feel depressed, I think of those people who have it worse than I do. I think of how much worse my life could be. I think of the fact that I could be dead right now when I'm still alive. I think of all the cases where I could have been dead, I could have died, and I survived through those times. So as far as committing suicide goes, it's come across my mind, but at the same time, it's not worth it. I mean, if I was going to die, I'd be dead already. So obviously I'm alive for some reason. And just know that there's lots of help out there for you. Whether it be talking to a complete stranger and just having them listen. There's people out there like that. There's professional help. There's just random people out there who will listen to your problems. All you have to do is ask. And that's pretty much how I've ever gotten through my situation, is talking to people. This was a really hard video to make. I have a lot of thoughts about the whole thing, and they're all boggled up there in my mind. It's hard to put it into words exactly how I feel, but the long and the short of it is that if you suffer from depression, or you think you suffer from depression, talk to people about it. There's no better cure than talking to somebody, being listened to. You find somebody who will listen to you. That's good friends, or good friends, even friends that you don't talk to often. You'll find friends in the most amazing places. Sometimes people who are just acquaintances you don't talk to often, they'll become your best friends because they'll actually listen to you and hear out your problems. When it comes to situational depression, the best way to get over it is to talk about it, get out your frustrations, figure out the problem, what's causing it, and just knowing that it'll get better eventually. Things do get better. Everybody has their ups and downs, and some people take their downs a lot harder. Anyway, this has been me making a very difficult video to make. I'm out.
You've been watching this guy and his point of view. Please comment, rate, and subscribe.